It's going to be a little hotter than 112 this weekend, but I don't think it's as hot as it could be. Yeah, it looks like we're reading about 116 inside. This is the extreme heat camping episode. And we're on the road again. It's currently 8:43 in the morning, and we are already cooking at 95 degrees down here in the desert southwest of Arizona. And where we're heading, it's gonna be hot as hell, maybe even hotter. We're towing the tab to London. The London Bridge, that is. And despite what the old nursery rhyme said about the London Bridge falling down, it has in fact been rebuilt in Arizona, if you don't know that. We're heading up to Lake Havasu to spend the weekend at a state park. And sometime throughout today or tomorrow, we're going to start frying out here in the desert at about a nice cool 112 degrees or so. For quite some time I've been wanting to do a high temperature camping trip. And it's definitely going to be pretty hot. And we're really going to put that tab's air conditioning to the test. This is by no means a how to survive the desert heat while camping episode. This is glamping, and the only thing that's going to make this possible and tolerable is having air conditioning in that tab and a hookup site. Now, although I'm definitely not roughing it at all, there are many dangers and precautions you need to take if you're going to camp in hot weather. And number one being, you must have air conditioning in your travel trailer, unless you are very adept to dealing with the desert heat. So I'm going to go over a few things of what us desert people or Arizonans would do while we're out here camping in the desert during the summer. There are a few ways to stay cool and enjoy yourself while not dying, but I do not recommend doing what I'm about to do unless you are adept and used to dealing with high temperatures. Now, more than likely, I'm going to be spending half of this trip in air conditioning, some way, somehow. But I'll be going over plenty of tips and tricks on how to stay cool and comfortable. But like I said, what I'm relying on here is the air conditioning in that trailer to work properly. And out here in the desert, once things start exceeding about 105 in direct sunlight, these air conditioners on these travel trailers have an extremely hard time of keeping up. The people that try to do this long term in the heat usually have to add some kind of window unit to their travel trailer in order just to keep it cool, or set up a massive shade structure. But I'm mainly more concerned with staying cool at night while I'm sleeping. That's the most important part to me anyway. So when planning out this trip, number one, I needed to find a campground that had a power hookup site. That way I can run the air conditioning in that trailer. If not, I'd have to rely on my generator running 24/7. So we got the campground with the power. The next thing was to find a campsite that had some kind of shade. And out here in Arizona, that's nearly impossible to do. And believe it or not, even in the dead of summer, all the good spots at these campgrounds have been taken at 2 weeks out. So we definitely won't have any shading on the trailer. But to pre-prep for this, I made sure I had plenty of water in the trailer, because we're going to need that to stay cool also. And last night I hooked the trailer up to power and fired up the air conditioning to make sure it worked. And I let that run all night long to cool the trailer down. Gonna let this cool down to a nice 78 degrees overnight until the morning, and then we're gonna head out. Alright, the next morning the AC is still working. We have cooled down to about 78 degrees where it should be. Now, to keep this refrigerator cool till we get up to camp and get the AC started again in this trailer, I'm gonna use my giant ice block. But I definitely don't want that heavy thing flying around in here and messing up my refrigerator going down the road. So I'm just going to take some shopping bags, shove them in next to this thing so it doesn't slide around. Just like that. Now, I definitely don't expect that trailer to stay cool over a 3-hour drive at this time of day, making our way to camp. But I just wanted to make sure that everything worked. And I also threw my big ice pack inside the refrigerator on the tab, with the refrigerator turned off on the whole drive up here, because I definitely don't want to stress out my refrigerator while the inside of that trailer is baking at 110 degrees. But that ice pack is going to allow that refrigerator to cool down a bit by the time I get up here to camp, fire up the air conditioning in that trailer, and then turn on the refrigerator. refrigerator. And of course, check-in time isn't until 2 o'clock at this park, so that trailer's definitely going to be baking at 110 degrees inside. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to hot weather camping per se with the travel trailer, but I've lived out in the desert my whole life, and I know how to adapt and overcome when it comes to this. I've camped out in the desert plenty of times during the summer, and by camped I mean killed a 12er of adult beverages, crashed out in the bed of the truck until the sun started baking us in the morning, where we migrated down into the water at a lake for the day. But like I said, this is no survival camping episode here. We're glamping, and we're going to try to make this as enjoyable as possible and pretty much turn that tab into a mini motel out in the desert. And with all that being said, I do want to say, if you are not prepared for this kind of environment, it could be extremely dangerous. There are a lot of do's and don'ts, and more don'ts than do's when it comes to being out in this heat. A lot of it's common sense, but many people ignore that. And the number one thing you do not ignore in the desert is your own body. You need to know yourself, and you need to know when that cutoff limit comes. And by cutoff limit, I mean you need to stop, relax, get in the shade, and cool down way before you think that you're even hot or exhausted. Also, the number one rule, hydration, staying hydrated. You want to hydrate at least a day before you go out. And you want to stay well hydrated the whole time you're out there and afterwards for the next day if you want to do this safely and feel good. You need to drink plenty of water, and also equally as important are electrolytes. And depending on your diet, salt. Anything salty, Gatorades, hydration drinks, along with that water, so you don't flush all those electrolytes out of your body. But for right now, enough of the scary warning and boring stuff. We're going to continue on here on the 95 heading north until we hit Lake Havasu. 9:26 and we're sitting at 101 degrees. And you can see how much hotter that trailer wheel is baking out in the sun side at 111. 7 degrees warmer. Nothing but wide open, desolate desert. But oddly enough, it's slightly greener than usual up here for not having any rain. And that's pretty green for us desert people. Just starting to head into the little town of Parker. Looking pretty hazy and smoky or dusty out there today. Actually some slightly nicer looking desert out here with the mountains that are around the area. Parker, Arizona is definitely an interesting river town. It's very small, but kind of neat. Very wicked looking terrain out there. And even though I live out in the desert, it's always strange to see such a huge boating community. If you take that road about 4 miles out or so, there's a bar out in the middle of nowhere in the desert that runs completely on solar. You definitely don't need four-wheel drive, but a little bit of ground clearance will definitely help you out. But that is one cool place to check out during the winter if you're in this area near Parker. If you like golf, they have a pretty cool golf course up here. Kind of runs under the highway. Pretty cool area. And I almost forgot to mention, that is the Colorado River. It basically follows the whole 95 all the way up from Parker to Lake Havasu. Looking pretty good out there. Welcome to the land of Calizona. Nothing but bro-dozers and boats. We're in London, Arizona. And we're now crossing the London Bridge. And we're going back over the London Bridge. It's always a must to drive over the London Bridge when you're up here. It's kind of neat to do. Now it's time to hit camp and make some lunch because I am starving. That is one cool boat. Lots of big money, big deal people up in these parts. Well, that was a no-go. I guess I showed up too early for once. It's right before 12 o'clock and they don't like that. Check-in's normally 2 anyway, but every so often you get lucky and you can get in early. So I guess I'm going to head on down to the London Bridge anyway. We'll go check that out and grab some lunch. We're going to go down here and grab a good burger if they're open. But pretty cool that this bridge was deconstructed piece by piece, numbered, and put back together here in Arizona. They have a pretty neat little village down here and walkway you can come and check out. Alright, time to head back to the truck, get that AC running so my refrigerator doesn't overheat. But the London Bridge area here is pretty cool. The London Bridge Resort I've actually stayed at, and it's pretty nice, but it can get pretty rowdy and crazy on the weekends up here during the summer, that's for sure. But if you're a single young dude, it's a blast. But it definitely is a party town on the weekends during the summer. During the winter it's equally crowded, but a lot more chill. Felt pretty good down there in those misters out in the shade at that burger stand. But I'll tell you what, 10 minutes out in the sun, I'm already cooking. But isn't that phenomenal gas mileage for doing about 65? Having that 36-gallon fuel tank is pretty awesome too, because I haven't had to stop for fuel in the last 3.5 hours and can still probably go another 3 hours. And step one to staying cool out here in the desert while waiting to get into the state park, sitting in the truck the last half an hour while running the AC. Now it's time to head to camp, for sure this time. And we made it in. But I'll tell you guys what, it's going to be a little hotter than 112 this weekend. Now to hurry up and get to the camp spot, because time is of the essence, and the longer that trailer heat soaks, the harder it's going to be to cool it down. But I forgot to mention, I have stayed here once before. It was my second trip out with the Tab, but I never started YouTubing then, so I missed it. So it's kind of cool, because we get to come back and do it again for everybody. And ironically enough, I have the same exact campsite. As you can see, there is little to no shade out here, and everything's pretty wide open. But some of these sites are really cool because you're right up on the lake shoreline here. And I tried to pick the best spot I could, but it's saying that all these spots up front right on the beach there are taken. But it is kind of cool that I got the same spot as the last time. Little trick to backing up. Pull as far forward as you can and get your trailer started out straight as you can from the beginning, and then start aiming back into your sight. Nice and easily. Small movements. These little trailers move quickly. Now let's see if I can angle this trailer right into its spot. And always think backwards. So now that I'm kind of in the spot, I'm going to go forward to get this straightened out. But in reality, what I could have done is pull right in here into this spot since nobody's here and back straight up. But I like to make things fun. And as always, I'm going to get out, take a look, check our level, and see if that's where I want to land this craft. Pretty cool place though. Works out pretty good. It's always good to bring a pair of gloves with you, not only for keeping your hands clean, but because all this stuff is going to be super hot baking out here at 117 degrees. All right, now we're going to separate from the trailer, and it's really nice having this backup camera on the Ford that you can just turn on and look back whenever you want, because I can see if everything's disconnected or if I happen to accidentally hit the trailer or something. All right, trailer's all set up. And the first thing I need to do is get this vented while it's still hot in here. And it's pretty warm in here, but I don't think it's as hot as it could be. Yeah, it looks like we're reading about 116 inside. All right, we're gonna open this fan and we're gonna vent this heat out immediately. And while we're doing that, we're gonna hook up power. First thing we're gonna do here at our power pedestal is we're going to hook up our 30 amp. And it's always a good idea to use one of these surge protectors slash circuit wiring checkers here. So we're going to turn on our 30 and we're going to check. We got two lights lit up. It matches this up here. It means everything is correct and good to go. So I'm going to turn that back off and we're going to plug in the trailer using our RV smart plug. And if you like to use shore power a lot, I highly recommend getting over the purchase price and buying one of these. Look at the size of these tabs and contacts in there. Way better sealing, and all you got to do, squeeze the jaws, press it on till it clicks. Now we have our shore power cord connected. Make sure you have nothing on in the trailer before you turn power on. Then we're going to flip our power back on and we should be good to go. Maybe hard to hear on camera, but it's pretty cool being out here. It's like Hot Rod City of the Water with all these big powerful boats. Okay, now let's fire up our AC. It's already feeling cooler in here, although it's still 115 degrees. All right, we got our AC turned on. And by the way, if you have an Elwell Air 8, this temperature always reads slightly off from maybe where your Aldi's set, or even this gauge here. So you just gotta kind of fiddle with it and get the right temp by feeling. But we got all of our air vents open, and this will take a little bit to fire up. It needs to check its voltage and stuff and see where it's at. Then it'll finally kick on. So don't be worried if this doesn't fire up within about 2 minutes. I'm doing everything nice and smooth, not in a rush, but I'm moving quickly, and I'm already breaking a sweat and ruining my new hat. Our refrigerator is pretty cool for being 115 in here. So I'm gonna turn that on anyway and get her going. And after about 3 minutes, the AC's finally kicked on. I do want to add, if you keep hitting buttons on here, it will cause this thing to pause and stop. So don't worry if that happens, just leave it alone and let it reset kind of and do its own thing. All right, we're at 115. I'm gonna leave this vent cracked and this fan on low to get rid of the rest of the heat in here while it starts to cool down. Now it's time to put on the adventure hat, not ruin the good hat with sweat. Sit in the truck while it's running, staying cool in the AC, while letting that trailer's AC cool it down. It's going to take a while because it's heat soaked. So since we have probably about 20 minutes till that air conditioning cools that trailer down, I'm gonna head down to a place and make a reservation for tomorrow's fun. Back from the rental shop. Now we're gonna see if that tab even cooled down at all. It feels cooler in here after a half hour. Down to 101. When you're out there in the sun at 117, 118, 101, feels cool. But what I need to do right now is move everything out of my refrigerator that's in the truck into the refrigerator in the trailer. I'm a one-trip kind of person. And you'll notice this trip, everything is mostly drinks. And we're going easy peasy and sleazy as far as cooking goes, because our microwave's actually hooked up to power and we can use it. Plus, I don't want to be outside barbecuing and sweating to death. Definitely plenty of water this trip. And anything that is food-wise is coming inside of the AC. This is 180 degrees different from camping in the winter or the nice season, especially out here in the desert. If you leave anything in your hot vehicle, it's gonna spoil, obviously, but most likely it may explode. So to get everything a little cooler faster, I pulled everything out. It's all sprawled out. I even opened up the bathroom in here because there was a lot of heat just kind of lingering in there, and I need to get some airflow into there too. Reading 110 in the shade outside and 94 inside after an hour. All right, we're a little over 3 hours in here. And I did end up putting my shade cloth thing on the outside of this window, and that has dramatically cooled that down. But we're sitting at about 106 in the shade outside and 85 inside. It's taken a lot to get down to that temperature in this kind of heat, direct sunlight. But later on tonight, once it cools down, this AC will finally get a rest, I hope. It's been running non-stop since I started it. Let's go for a little walk outside. Well, but first, I'm going to grab my electrolyte drink here. And by the way, if you can find these in your area, these things are absolutely amazing. They have all kinds of good stuff in there. Probably pretty close to having an IV. Looks like we ended up getting some neighbors. Got some more down that way too. Check that out, floating hot dog cart. Also an interesting fact about Havasu, they have these mini replica lighthouses all over. Still pretty hot out here. Good breeze going, but too hot to just hang out. Would you look at that? Beachfront property in Arizona. The Colorado's looking pretty clear today. Looks like a nice place for a picnic. Zero shade out here right now. Definitely still too hot to go out there and just hang out. So not a whole lot of fun as far as camping goes, because I'm kind of cooped up in here to stay cool. Unless I go out in the water, but I'll probably do that tomorrow. I am getting kind of hungry and it's close to dinner time, so we're going to microwave up this yakisoba steak. There are a lot of people that want the extra storage space over a microwave, but I'll tell you what, it comes in handy for stuff like this. too special, as to be expected with a microwave dinner. It'd be nice to look at the boats and the water out that window, but it's just too hot. Let's see how it tastes. Not too bad for your stereotypical microwave dinner. But it is nice that I'm not out there sweating while I'm cooking. Well, I guess there are worse places to be. It's only 1:02 outside, after only about 6 hours or so. But it is the golden hour, and the golden hour comes late out in the desert. I'm tired of being cooped up, so I'm going to head down to the shoreline there and have a beer. I didn't feel like putting on my board shorts, so I had to go all high waters or pedal pushers, depending on where you're from. Them feet definitely haven't seen daylight in over a year. Today's beer, local beer of choice, brewed in Lake Havasu, Arizona. Big Blue Van. Wheat beer with a slight blueberry taste to it. I've had this one before. It's actually pretty good. Very light blueberry taste to it. Really refreshing. That water's a little chilly. Probably about 75 degrees or so. Getting real Miami Vice out here right now. Well, I guess the high waters weren't high enough. Oops. Well, the golden hour is just about done. I just remembered, and I checked, we're about 15 subscribers away from the 3,000 mark. So I guess I'll have to be giving up my name before the end of this video. But all I can tell you right now is I have a lot of nicknames. And some people call me the Space Cowboy. Well, this thing's actually going to come in handy other than filling up my water jug for once. Yeah, it's only about 102 out here right now. So I think I'll have me another beer. Look at the quails running through camp. Last time I was here, I had a whole pack of coyotes living out here in the brush. It's kind of strange because the city is literally right here and all the way down and around. And I almost forgot the last major mod of the truck so far. The Worksport Hail 4 tonneau cover. And this thing is sweet. And there's a few reasons I went with this over the rest. This is one of the few sit on top ultra low profile tonneau covers. And it's almost all fully aluminum in construction and very strong. And I wanted to sit on top because it helps to block out the water a little better sitting up here. On top of it makes it a little stronger for what I may end up doing later on, is putting a bike mount up on the front, setting that back tire of the bike back here. But pretty awesome design. You just pull the latch and each section locks. But what makes this even better, these side rails that come in are extremely narrow. Some of those flush mount bed covers, those things stick in about that far, And when you're short like me and trying to reach in here, that would make things a little more difficult. Plus, this thing has a seal between the rail, a seal up here against the cover, and the seal on the edge of the cover that goes on top of the rail. It also folds all the way up and has these really nice prop rods that go on each side. And it keeps it away from the cab of the truck. Even their prop rod design is far superior than some of the others. It has this push button in here, and it locks that onto the ball here until you need it up here. And having that prop rod, having that little latch piece that locks onto that ball is a pretty big deal. That way it doesn't rattle loose when you're going down the road. And as usual at Figures, after I perched this, I just seen they have a cover in development that each one of these sections will be full solar panels. And then they'll have a charging station you can mount in the bed of your truck to charge up as your truck sits out in the sun. That's some pretty ingenious stuff. And something I added a while back and totally forgot to show you guys was this short stubby antenna instead of that 10-foot long one that comes on them. And what makes this super cool is this is a small family-owned company in Wisconsin that makes these. Another good American-made part. I think the company was called Antennas or Us, so pretty nice looking little antenna. Trying to get these jeans dry out here. Shouldn't take too long. But it is a pretty nice evening for being about 100 degrees right now. Look at those Arizona sunset colors on the lake. Alright, I got the pants dry in here. They didn't dry all the way out. And oddly enough, I had to throw on the board shorts now to go to bed in. But the nice thing is I noticed the AC on the tab finally shut down and turned back on after a while, then shut down again. So I think we're good to go for the night. I know some asked about the air conditioning in this, and yeah, it's pretty noisy. I'll see if you can hear it humming back here. It's a little quieter when you lay that backrest down. What you mainly hear is the vents blowing out air. It blows out a lot of air, which is good. And that will intermittently turn on and off. The fan will shut down. There is a way to program that thing to keep the fans on constantly, but I personally don't want to keep constantly running the fan system too. But honestly, once you get used to that sound, it's not that loud. It kind of drones everything out going on outside, especially in a place like this. With all that boat traffic outside, it sounds like you got drag races going on out there. That doesn't really bother me too much, but it may bother some. And when you're in here, you can hardly hear that. You can actually feel it more than you can hear it. But for knowing how nice and cool it is here, I'll take the sound coming out of this AC any day. But if you want to know more about this Elwell Air 8, I have a video way back down there where I'm heat testing it at 116 degrees. But I will say, pre-cooling this trailer down before I left and doing all the right things once I got to camp, getting it cooled down, ventilated initially, really did help this thing cool down as fast as possible. So when it comes to travel trailers, that's just something you deal with air conditioning. These walls are only about 1.5 inches thick. These right here, I think, probably have 1 inch of foam core inside. So that wasn't too bad for how hot it was out here today, especially in direct sunlight. But if I were doing anything more than a couple days at this kind of temperature, I would probably want to park under some shade at least. I definitely wouldn't want to put that poor little AC through all that all the time. But the reality is, how often are you going to camp when it's 118 degrees outside? It's nice to have the air conditioning in here to be able to kind of do this every once in a while, or maybe, like I said, when it's maybe 105 at the max temp outside, this air conditioning will perform just right. But I personally like to go camping where it's nice and cool out, at least under 85 degrees. Well, I've had one too many big blue vans, and I think it's time to call it a night. I'm just going to kick back and relax in the trailer in the nice, cool air conditioning and watch some TV. Tomorrow I'm going to get up fairly early, and I have a pretty cool activity planned. Hopefully it works out for filming purposes. I didn't bring my GoPro, and I haven't used one in a few years, so I'm going to try to make it work with this phone. See you all in the AM. Oh, that's a nice view in the morning. And the ball of fire already begins to cook. Time to get the breakfast going. And it's way too hot for regular coffee. Now that's camp breakfast done easy, I'll tell you what. It doesn't look too bad for microwaved biscuits and gravy. Let's take our breakfast out to the beach. Lots of rule ones out in the desert about avoiding the heat. Another number one rule, shade. It's actually one of the most important. That can save your life. So we're going to sit out here in the shade at the beach and eat our breakfast. It's probably about 87 already, but it feels pretty nice right here. Let's see how our microwave Jimmy Dean's biscuits and gravy are. That's actually pretty good. It's one of the few microwave meals that actually tastes like it's supposed to. Also, if you plan on doing any hiking or walking or any kind of strenuous activity out in the desert in the summer, it's always best to get up before sunrise and get back into the air conditioning by about 10 o'clock if you can. Or you go out about an hour or so before sunset and come back in at dark. Alright, time to get back to the trailer. That sun's already starting to cook me. I'm not sure if those people brought a portable AC for that tent or not, but if they didn't, that's absolutely insane. These lantern hangers in camp are pretty nice. They work out good for hanging up your trash. Well, that might be the first time I've ever seen the AC drip. It's not that humid out here, but if you ever wondered where that comes from on your tab with an Air 8, it's probably gonna be that round black thing right there. And what I'm thinking is probably good is to probably have the trailer slightly nose high and slightly high on the campsite. That way that air conditioner can drain off and flow right out of there. As far as the air conditioning went last night, it worked out really well. Turned on, turned off as normal, so no big deal. It doesn't really bother me having that sound in here. It actually kind of reminds me of when you stay in one of those motels and they got those big lower window AC mounts in there. They're kind of loud, but it's very relaxing. Another tip to get your air conditioning circulation going, it's almost the same as when you're using your heating. Keep your backrest propped up. That way the air can get down in there and sucked into the air conditioning. Same goes for the heating. That way the heating can come up. But I've already got my window covering on this side, starting to block everything out to try to keep some of that heat out. But with these window shades, I like to kind of keep a little bit of an air gap in here. So when that heat builds up, it can at least vent out of there. I don't want my shades or anything to melt. Most likely they'll warp or something. They're not going to completely melt, but there's a lot of trapped heat in between those plastic windows and these shades. But I am very curious to see how this trailer does throughout the day today, since it's been cooled down inside already. I think the air conditioner is going to get a workout, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as trying to cool this thing down from 116 degrees like yesterday. And it's definitely going to be a hot one today. It's already 93 at 6:53 in the morning. How do I keep that beard looking good? The Wild Willie's heated beard comb. Some also call me the gangster of love. All right, all cleaned up. Now it's time to head over to the rental shop. All right, we got the tab set to 78. I barely have that roof vent cracked, and the fan is on the lowest setting to hopefully get rid of heat. All the windows have been shaded. I'm gonna leave the bathroom door open to get some cool air in here. And by the way, if you don't know, in high temperatures, you may need to add double the amount of black tank treatment to keep that smell down in the heat. Can't forget our ice cold water. I've already chugged a liter. Thanks to the modern miracles of technology, the truck is already cooled down. We're gonna put our cold water in our pack for today and hit the road. So I decided to rent a jet ski. We're gonna cruise on down to the London Bridge. Well, there's the beach at the state park we're at. And there's the tab. Why buy a drone when I can just rent a jet ski for these kind of shots? That's pretty sweet. Look at all them wasp nests up there. Pretty awesome. All right, now we got to really hightail it out of here because I'm going to end up owing another $500,000 to the rental company if I don't get back in time. Those lighthouses actually come in handy. That one out in the distance is the one right near camp. Now it's time to open her up and let her eat. Good to go? All right, man. Well, that was a pretty cool way to stay cool, huh? It's been about 2 hours. It's almost 12 o'clock, so we're going to check on the tab's AC and see how that's doing. It's definitely nice and cool in here. And it looks like we've been holding 74 degrees. Pretty awesome. It's 107 outside. This gauge is actually more accurate than the one with the Air 8. That's pretty good. But I'm hungry and I'm definitely not cooking. So we're gonna try out these burger melts or burger pita things. Little strawberry punch flavor in our ice water. And now I'm actually gonna sit out here and have lunch. But how am I gonna stay nice and cool? The best way. I call this Arizona air conditioning. I'm gonna soak my chair down first. I'm going to soak myself And it'll almost feel kind of chilly out here, even when it's like 110, 120, as long as you're soaked. Now let's see how these weird pita burgers came out. Not too bad for a microwave burger. Just been sitting out here the last couple hours, chilling, relaxing, listening to the camp neighbors' kids screaming and yelling. It's actually pretty nice out here as long as you keep yourself soaked down, probably about every 30 minutes, or as soon as you start feeling dry and hot, soak yourself in your chair down again, and that's my survival hack to staying cool and staying alive out here in the desert. I've also been periodically checking the YouTube, and we're steadily climbing to 3,000 subscribers. But my name is definitely not Maurice. But in a little bit here, I'm going to actually take a shower, get cleaned up, and head out for dinner this time. It's like a ghost town during the day out here. Well, it's about 4:30. I'm all washed up and cleaned up, so it's time to hit the town for some easy dinner. Tab's been doing pretty good. It's 107 outside, and I actually had to turn the temperature up because it was getting a little cold in here, so it's 82. But that air conditioner only shut off 3 times, 2 of which because I turned up the temperature. So that air conditioner is definitely getting an entire year's use in only 2 days. Always curious about Mexican food in different regions of the state or the country, so we're going to check out this Mexican restaurant here. It looks pretty good, and it's close to camp. And while we're here, we might as well fill up the F-150 with some Sunoco race gas. I'm going to tell you right now if this is legit or not. Oh, that looks bomb. Shredded beef chimichanga, enchilada style. Demolished. It was a rough day out there on that lake working up an appetite. Man, I'll tell you what, that place was legit. You can tell a lot about a Mexican restaurant by the rice and beans. And everything there was excellent. That margarita was perfect. That shredded beef chimichanga enchilada style was amazing. A little milder in flavor than what I'm used to from my region, but very, very good. But I feel sorry for that Tabs cassette toilet. So while I was in there, I was checking the YouTube, and it looks like we're 12 away from 3,000 subscribers. It means we're getting pretty close to me finally revealing my name.
My name is Jeff.
Definitely not a Jeff. One last beer down by the shore. Check this out. I just noticed this. There's a little tiny arch at the top of that mountain way out there. This thing sounds pretty hot. Thinking all these pretty clouds out here are actually smoke from some wildfires that are going on out near the mountains above LA. Time to head back in. The breeze is slowing down and the mosquitoes are coming out, and I don't want West Nile virus. Check out the little cottontail. Also got one right here. Alright, back inside in the nice cool air conditioning. I think it's time to call it the end to a very hot but pretty fun trip. And as of right now, the Tab's air conditioning is sitting right around 78 degrees. So we're doing pretty good still at about 8:30 at night. So I think we're going to make it until I leave tomorrow. Running that air conditioning like that in this kind of extreme environment, I don't think I'd want to do on a regular. And I definitely don't recommend it. But it can be done if it has to be done. And now there's only one thing left to do. Finally, give my name and introduce myself. My name is JR Ewing. And I'm an ex-oil tycoon from Dallas, Texas. One last joke. But in all seriousness, that is half correct. I never really gave it much thought when I started doing all these videos. And it never really dawned on me until a few of you brought that up, that I've never introduced myself. Now that a few have asked, and I've had some time to think about it, for privacy reasons on the internet and whatnot, I'll only give you part of my name. And it actually is JR. Most people that I know just call me Junior anyway, but I'd actually prefer JR. I think it sounds a little cooler. So there you have it. Alright, now that that's out there, I think it's time to sign off. I'm pretty beat. I got a little extra sun exposure this trip. I just want to relax in the air conditioning and watch some TV my last night up here. And as always, I'm not sure what the heck I'm going to be doing next week or the week after. Most likely I'll be heading way north to the nice cool weather. This was pretty fun, but I'd much rather be up in the trees at 80 degrees. Thank you all once again for liking, commenting, and subscribing. It's greatly appreciated. And I'll see you in the next adventure.